I think it's now finally time to share with you the dark side of my life. Now, this is something that has really only become super prevalent to even myself for the first time um, over the past few days. And I think there's a few things that made this come into fruition for me to finally see. But this is also something that, although it's sad and something that's been difficult for me to grapple with the past few days, I feel like I really want to share it. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna talk at whatever pace and whatever comes out will, and hope you enjoy. Past few days have just been pretty wild. Had to let go of a team member, an employee last Friday, and had a really deep guided meditation on Sunday that I think really opened up a lot for me. In the past few days has just been a lot of sadness, to be honest, and really shown a side of my life that I haven't really allowed myself to see before. And I want to give it the space to do so here. So, what's been happening recently is, over the past handful of nights, ever since Sunday, I've been having a series of, I wouldn't call them nightmares because they're not necessarily scary, but they're very eye opening dreams to where it's showing me people from my childhood. This is friends from elementary school, middle school, high school, college, in unique situations. One in particular last night that I'll describe for you. Imagine like 2 to 3 dozen of the closest people that you came in contact with throughout your childhood, throughout your teenage years in particular. And they're all in this kind of big grassy field. You're not really sure where that field is, but you know it's kind of in your hometown, Las Vegas, for myself. And the dream starts you just pretty much casually talking to a group of the friends that you know there and have you love. They're fantastic people. And you're just having a conversation. And then as the day goes on, and imagine kind of like a big party, you just kind of talk to some people sometimes and switch to another group. No times talk then, whatever it is. As you're switching groups, you begin to realize there's kind of like like a thumbtack or like a really powerful rubber band or something is being shot at you from your back towards the back of your head or your neck or your legs, whatever it is. And it's quite painful. This happens over and over again, and you turn around and you're like, what's going on? But you don't see anything. All you see is like your friends you just talked to smiling. And this goes on for a long time, and need to the point where you can't just continue the conversation you have with someone because it's just so annoying and painful that you look back and you see not necessarily like a certain person, but you see the idea that was your friend group as some of them people that were hurting you in moments that you couldn't see. They were throwing those rubber bands or those thumbtacks, whatever they were, at the back of your being this whole time. And the final moment of that dream was realizing, oh my gosh, these things weren't just coming out of the sky or from the wind passing by, or it wasn't my own body reacting to in certain ways. It was other people intentionally harming me. And then you finally say, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm leaving. And the moment you say I'm leaving, the dream ends. So I've had a consistent amount of dreams happen at the past handful of days that all around a very similar situation where like it shows that people that I've really connected with throughout my childhood especially adolescence, teenage years, hurting me. And it's led for my days, not only nights, but my days to feel quite sad. Not really knowing why, because a lot of things that are happening in my life currently are very exciting and there's a lot of momentum. And today, filming this, it's actually my last day of being 25. My birthday, my 26th birthday is tomorrow, Wednesday, October 29th. And it's just an exciting time. There's a lot going on. This has really just kind of sat with me recently. And it's pointing out something to me to where there's been a lot of, let's call it like shade thrown my way my whole life that I never really had the eyes to see. And it feels like it's now being shown to me. And that honestly is just quite painful. In some parts of it I was conscious of, but most of it I wasn't. But as I look back, and I'm just being honest with myself of, it's kind of like the dark side of being liked and being a good person, which I genuinely feel like I have been my entire life, is that the people that can't fathom being nice to everyone for themselves assume that the people that are faking it, are trying to get something from them, trying to abuse them in some way. And they, because of that, do things to those people that are just flat out mean. Like I can truly say I've always been a kind person. I've always been really nice to people in a genuine way. And I've always had a very pure heart. And that being said, growing up the way I did comes as if it's a double-edged sword in a way that I never thought. There's another sharp part pointing right back at me. And that is, and I know like, I'm going to say this, and I know like some people are like, oh, you know, tough life, whatever it is, but I'm tired of that bullshit. That's happened to me my entire life. It happens to some other people, where if you say things about your life that show that you've had some advantages, it like disregards all disadvantages. And I'm throwing that all away. The whole fucking privilege bullshit, just toss that shit away. I'm going to have like a real conversation about how I'm generally feeling, because if I invalidate myself or people invalidate themselves, what's the fucking point of human experience? So I grew up in a way, thankfully, to where I had two parents that deeply love each other. They cared for each other, that cared for me, that were very healthy. They were very well off. They had resources. I was the only child. They spoiled me to death in like the best way I could ever ask for. And they gave me the genetics, good looking person. Just going to say that without, I know people sound weird if you say that, but I am. Intelligent, emotionally intelligent to some extent. For a child, I'd say I was. Taught me how to be kind. And in a world where so many aren't those things, so many people don't have those attributes, they look at the people that do and they try to tear them down. And so I never really, identified with the idea of like I was bullied as a kid, but I definitely was. Like elementary school, I was bigger than most kids. I kind of matured faster. My body, even my mind, everything. And I would be like mocked at all the time. But the way I walked or the way I talked, or understandably, the fact that I was in like the gifted and talented program, I was in GATE, and then I was also in like some special needs classes, like reading disability classes, like a few other like other things that were just the complete opposite side of the spectrum. There's a lot to poke at there. And then I remember middle school is where it got really weird, because I think middle school for a long time, more than any other thing, I was definitely kind of the king on campus. And middle school is such an awkward phase for so many. But for some reason, I was dealt a really good hand, and it was a lot easier for me. There was, did really well in sports, was smart, so I was getting A's, and did everything. I was kind to the teachers. And then there were times where like this is where I really started to realize that. And anyone who's ever experienced this knows exactly what I mean, but you can kind of tell that a lot of people are just wearing a mask in front of you. Like, you know, how they're treating you as kind of a performance. And you know, you can't really trust them. You know, there's the moment they turn away or you turn away from them, they'll be talking behind your back, or they're trying to do actually everything to bring you down. They're trying to figure you out. They're trying to crack the code. That's the only reason why they talk to you. Only reason why they're in your life. And this is where it really started, where I had a lot of friendships to where some days people really wanted to be my friend. They're really excited to hang out, to play basketball with me, to just talk. And then other days, like, they couldn't handle it. And what I realize now, because it's the same as most adults, is we wear this type of mask that we feel like we must be around certain people to be worthy of being around them. It's like if you're around, if I say this right now, if we were around the coolest people on the planet, let's say The Rock, let's say Oprah, let's say Obama, whoever you think is like the coolest person ever, a lot of people, they act a certain way around those people that isn't actually them. It's like the person they believe they must be to be accepted around those people. And that's always happened to all different extents in many different ways. And especially it's very common, of course, like in middle school, high school. Like you become something you're not to please someone. But sadly, when you feel as if you must be a certain way for someone else that's different from who you are, you begin to resent yourself for doing that. And then that oftentimes is unconscious, that part. And so externally, what is conscious is that you begin to resent them. And so I think I was on the bad end of a lot of resentment, to where I can just feel like some days people kind of made bids for friendship. And then other days they would just be like, wouldn't have the energy to wear the mask that day. And they would refuse to talk to me. Like, they would avoid me, or they would just make up rumors behind my back. And I mean, that was happening. I had times, especially middle school, where I remember a few things where people would break into my locker, and my basketball shoes that I had to have in there for practice after school, they would like scuff them up. They would like really mess with them. Or they would take my binder that was in there and like mess up a few like homework assignments. They either trash it or just scribble over it. They'll do something to ruin it. But they wouldn't take anything. They wouldn't take the newer basketball shoes. They would just mess them up so that it would affect me, or try to make me revolt. But I had this unique trait that I've now noticed that many people have, to where like it's very difficult to make me like frustrated, especially bitter or angry or mad. I'm just pretty damn chill with everything. And I what myself and Al call now, we just kind of reality transsurf. It's like the reaction people are wanting from you, just naturally just kind of give the opposite. And it makes them just pissed and oftentimes regret even doing whatever they did. And so like these people do these things, I assume expecting a big reaction, probably like waiting, hiding somewhere so that when I open my locker, they can kind of see the reaction to it. But when I don't react at all, they're kind of even more pissed. They want to double down on doing hard things or mean things to me, whatever it was. So it was wild. And like, I was genuinely a kind person doing well towards myself and others, to where in the same day, I remember stuff like that would happen where they just like come mess up all my stuff. And the class I'd go to right after that, after I noticed that, it'd be like a Monday, and just my, lab partner, who was never flirting with, was never trying to become friends with so I can cheat off or nothing like that. She'd like bake me cookies just 'cause, spontaneously. And so I'm met with kind of like this bitterness, this anonymous bitterness. And then I'm met with this like just genuinely amazing person just trying to do a nice act to me who I'm just very grateful to have in my life. And that was pretty much a lot of my childhood. Now, I'm so grateful because as I really understand this and as I, help people through kind of my line of work is kind of trace back these patterns of why we act certain ways and understand that in these dreams, the people that are coming in are some people that did those things to me. And I'm just going to start on the things. I'll go more in depth. But what I realized is a lot of them were deeply suffering in that time. Their parents are going through a difficult divorce they had to work through, where they're literally being abused by someone in their life, or there's other problems that happen that are out of their control oftentimes. And even if all those things were good, just the idea of being in middle school fucking sucks. It really does. And they wanted to take out that energy on someone who they believe seemed like wasn't having those problems. And the person was me. And I remember, a few times I had my basketball teams come to the house just after like a basketball tournament, and we all just hang out, parents order pizza, something like that. To be a good time. And then I'd have like a teammate try to like steal my headphones. Or I'd have again like this behavior of almost like every other day, every other week. Some people would want to like be my friend, be my life, and like really try hard. And then some other days they'd be kind of like, fuck that guy, I hate him. And I'm just like, what's going on here? I'm just trying to be a normal person and be your friend. And that was just difficult. And I remember another story. This is more. Also, I'll say this before that. Like, also in middle school, like, people are always trying to like start beef to get me to fight someone. Like, they're always wanting to see me angry and see me lose my shit to so that they can see that not everything's always okay all the time. And someone who's not in that situation doesn't understand what that would be like. But when you're in that, it's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, I'm literally just trying to go to school, play basketball, have fun with my friends, play video games on the weekends. That's it. And these people are literally like doing things to make my life significantly worse. And also mixed with like extreme generosity from some people. Some people you can tell is coming from a not so good place, and some people you can tell is coming from a great place. And so it's this very unique, like I said, double-edged sword. And yeah. And I have a lot of empathy for these people because a lot of these are just now what, the psychology profession would tell you is like attachment styles, right? They're anxious and anxious attachment and avoidance attachment. And people adopt behaviors that they believe is kind of a bid for connection, because in a family, in a environment of chaos, that's what people see as connection. I would assume people see as human interaction. And so they, in many different ways, do that towards people they want to be the best friends, people they want to be their villain in their life, because they believe that's what life is all about. And you must have that, and feeding the stories of all that, and pretty much causing chaos for no freaking reason. And it's sad, but it kind of shows me that a lot of people aren't actually ready for someone to be kind to them. And we all know most people in our lives where if you gave them, let's just say romantically, you gave them the perfect person to date or to marry, whether it's like someone who treats them very well, who has a good head on their shoulders, that just kind of their dream person, they'd find a way to mess it up. They would find a way to make it not happen, to not work. And I feel like I got the brunt of that a lot as a former classmate at the time, teammate, friend, sometimes extended family member. to these people. And I didn't know why. And thankfully, I think I had enough dissonance to not really think that much about it. But now that I'm able to kind of see it, it it's difficult because it's like there's no way you can be for someone for them to like you. People who want to hate you find a reason to do it and will do actions to make that happen, to manifest it in their reality. And people that want to hate you also want you to hate them. And a lot of people that don't like themselves will make sure that you don't like them by doing things that harm you. I mean, I've had that. I remember like in high school a few times, I was at like a friend's house once. It was like a Saturday night, probably around 10:30. Mormon family, really, really nice, amazing people. And just got done hanging out. It's probably like 10:30. I was walking out to my car. I was probably about 16. And then my car had, imagine if someone took like a dozen cantaloupes, like the fruit, and squash and a bunch of other fruits, vegetables, whatever they may be, that have a really messy inside. And they just threw that all on top of my car. Like the inside of a pumpkin, like everything just. And they just like did their best to destroy the car without like keying it or without putting spray paint on it. And this would happen kind of often. Like this wasn't uncommon, at least a few times a year, at least. And this is probably just all one person. I wouldn't be surprised it's a group of people. Maybe it's multiple people. I have no idea. But stuff like that would happen. This is more like a better illustration of an overall feeling I felt almost on a day-to-day basis with a lot of people where, and I remember in that exact situation, sticking on that for a second, I would have that happen and then I would see it right when I closed the front door to my friend's house as I'm walking in my car, like, what the? And I just go back, knock on the door, I'm like, hey, look at what happened. He's like, bro, what the, like, who did this? And then like his parents come out, they see it, and everyone there is like angry. They're like, is this like, do we have to like report this to the cops? Is this like something that, this is like, destruction of someone's private property? Like what, why would that happen? And then I'm just there, just like trans-surfing. I'm just like, the car needed to wash. I'm just go to the car washer after this. I'll be fine. Self-service one's open at night, and I'll be good. It's fruit, so thankfully, if I get it off now and doesn't like seep in the paint, should be fine. So don't worry about it. It's all good. And they're just like, they're almost angry for me. This happened all the time. And a lot of people oftentimes they quickly, consciously make something not a big deal to not have to face it to some extent. And maybe I was doing that unconsciously, as I'm saying this now, but also just like a part of me generally just didn't really see that as that big of a deal. Just kind of like, yeah, that happened too. It was kind of like a sequence of little things like this happening my entire life that nothing really could faze me. And yeah. I had very few people that were just genuinely, what I would say, like ride or dies the whole time, where just a really good relationship and just always just treated me very well. And many others that were in that dream, I could see that they were a certain way in front of me and then felt the complete different way about me when I wasn't in front of them. So when you're finally like allowing yourself to really see all this, it can be a lot because you're kind of questioning a lot of your childhood and like so many friendships you had that you really admired. And you're like, wait, was this really a friendship the entire time? Or is this just you wanting to be around me because of how you believed you would have been perceived in that way, but you didn't actually care about me, you cared more about yourself. And if there anything that I did to remove myself, either just me, wanting to hang out with a different friend group that night, whatever it was, you took that as a assault on your character and who you were. And on the deepest level, I have a lot of empathy because, like, or compassion at least. They're all just doing that because they want attention. They want to be loved. They want to be cared for. And this is just what they've learned through oftentimes others on what someone does when they don't get exactly what they're looking for. Even though none of that's ever said or written, or no one really has the consciousness to understand what's going on, there's just so much unconscious behavior that leads to so much pain for so many. And I'm really allowing myself for the first time to really see that and feel that. Um, I remember also, like, in middle school, high school, college, there were also like other, let's call them like popular kids that never liked me. Like, didn't even give being around me a chance, and a great disdain for me almost. And I never understood why, because I'm literally just there, like, trying to be friendly with everyone, trying to be kind. And they just refused. It almost felt as if, now I can really see it better, they were trying so hard to be cool that it took a lot of effort. And when I was just effortlessly being me, and a lot of people liked me because of that, they did not like that. They did not like how easy it was. And this may not always be the case for everyone. I mean, there's probably other reasons to dislike me, annoying or whatever they thought, and that's probably was there to some extent. But also, this just feels very true to me that there was just a lot of animosity towards me, literally just living my life. And yeah, I just had a lot of friends that just did a lot of shitty things. I remember this really got highlighted for me in college because thankfully I was in a relatively good bubble in high school, but in college you're just around a lot more normal people, I guess. There's this whole thing of like you're around like the smartest of the smartest. No, I mean, it's a state school, and like it was not that case at all. And these people are just normal people. And I remember we had this my freshman year, our dorm, our floor had like a group of friends, probably like a dozen of us plus, that would hang out often. It was like our first college friends. And I realized pretty quickly, like, these people are all miserable. Like, they're all just like picking fights with one another. They're all borderline drug addicts, alcoholics, hating their life. And when I realized that, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna pull back. I'm gonna just not hang out with them as much. And then as soon as that started to happen, I realized they began to, in very indirect ways, try to make me really angry. Like, as soon as, and this was funny because what really messed me up about this was there were other people in the friend group that just left and they just didn't care. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize they wasn't there. But when I left, there was like almost like a campaign to make my life worse, it felt, and to shit on me. I remember there were times where like I'd be gone doing something or working, and roommates or someone else would like throw a party in the dorm room. And again, this is one room, probably the size of a normal person's kitchen, maybe a little bit bigger, that three guys were all living in. And so very tight. But we'd have like dorm parties where we'd shove a dozen plus people in one room. And a few of these would happen, and just normal, they're throwing parties. Some of my stuff's going to be messed around. Some's going to be sitting in my bed. It's all good. I don't really care that much. As long as I don't like break anything, like, it's all good. But I remember like a few days, every time something like that would happen, a few people in there would like Snapchat me or post in their story, people oftentimes drunk, talking shit about me, like just saying the meanest things, most of which are just untrue rumors. And other things were just like making fun of things that I can't change, for the most part, about myself. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I've done nothing to you people. I've been so kind and so nice. And then just like, if one night a week I decide to go hang out with this other group of people, or literally have to work and get a job, like, it was the biggest deal to them. And when I, so that was happening. Then I'll share this one. This is a little bit of different thing. So there's everything I shared before is kind of like me at the time, oftentimes be very unconscious to how poorly I was treated. That I now see a lot of being kind of like, I don't know if it's any type of comparison they have towards me, competition, or just animosity because life is hard and they need a villain. They need someone to pick at. And to someone who is kind to people, to someone who just kind of eases their way through life more than most, I was the perfect person to point at and to blame and to target. Yeah. And thankfully, like I said, a lot of this had a lot of dissonance around that. I never really had the eyes to see it until now. I feel like, again, these sequence of dreams I've been having are kind of just making it so crystal clear I can't avoid it anymore. To where a lot of my kindness has been abused, it feels. Yeah, and one of the hardest ones I'll share right now, and this is a little bit different from other stories because this one had a little bit more of my own voluntarily suffering part to this, but there was one where um, I'd say my best friend in college, we had a pretty intimate like friend group. He was my roommate. There was one time where I think it was sophomore year, maybe, yeah, sophomore year. I was dating this girl for quite a while and had just a really good relationship with her. And we just started like going separate ways. I didn't really want to hang out with each other as much anymore. It was relatively pretty mutual, but someone I deeply cared about. I knew her from high school. A lot of people from high school went to college. And, you know, I come home one day, um, go into him like, yeah, bro, we broke up. It's over. Like, thankfully, it's like relatively amicable and like really no bad blood, but just like it just not wasn't working out anymore. And he's like, oh man, so sorry to hear that, bro. Let's order pizza, let's play some video games, do something, play some basketball, whatever you want to do. Let's do that. And then yeah, the next day we had planned to have kind of like our intimate like friend group and also a little bit larger group FaceTime each other to kind of plan out the weekend. I think we're gonna go to Sacramento or something that weekend for whatever it was, school or just fun related. And we all FaceTime each other. And he's on the FaceTime, my friend, and he's in the bedroom of my ex-girlfriend, who I just broken up with 24 hours earlier. And he's in the bedroom with his shirt off. And this one was such like a what the fuck that it felt like one of the first such a deep backstabbing that I couldn't not face it, I guess. And so next morning, I think he probably, comes back the morning later, whatever it is. I'm having breakfast. My roommate's there, and everyone in the room we have like 4 guys total, myself and him being one of them. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I told you that we just broke up yesterday, and why would you do that? Why would you not tell me you're interested? Like, he's like, and you can tell he's not interested at all. And I'm like, did you guys like sleep together? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I'm like, And then he said, I said, like, I don't want that to happen. Like, you're like my best friend. Why would you do that to someone? Like, and I was just lost for words. I kind of like I am now. And I remember he just said, sorry you feel that way. And then I just had this moment of shock. And my roommate and his girlfriend were there at the time. Girlfriend at the time were there, and they were both, of course, on the same side as myself. Like, what the? Like, I'm trying to like get this because it was such a wild time, and I still have a lot of mixed emotions around it. But they were just like, what the fuck is wrong with you, roommate? I'm not going to say their name, out of respect, but even if it's not really deserved, but keep it all anonymous here. So ever since then, I mean, he's told me openly, like, I just look at him differently. I look at that man differently. I'm not close with him or anything because of that. And so that day happened, and I'm just separated from this guy. This is the same. We have the same major. We take at that semester. It was like sophomore year. We had all 5 classes together. A few days, and I'm just like not wanting to talk to him at all, and he just acts like nothing happened. And then there was this part of me, and this is where I put myself in a situation that I promised after I like really sat with this, that I'd never do this again, to where I was in a compromising situation because, and this is full transparency, if you guys want to take away my diploma, go right ahead. I don't give a shit. But we'd have quite a few classes, and there's some classes I was really good at, and some classes he was really good at. And he was definitely a better student than I was. And there was like 2 classes that I'm like, if I don't have him, if I'm not in a relationship with him during the final exam, I'm not going to pass this class. And I had so much fear. There was that like very logical situation. I'm like, I gotta like reconnect, like stay friends with him to make it through the semester. And also a deeper part of me that I really only can see now is in my mind, in my being, I felt like I'm either friends with this guy or I'm lonely or I'm friends with no one. And I was so afraid of loneliness. I was so afraid of kind of needing to start a new friend group and all those other things that I just, over the next few days, began to act like nothing happened. And there was a part of me that just wanted to just push whatever happened on water under the bridge, as they say, or just push it down. And I did that for years with this person. And to that day, he was still one of my best friends. Sat next to each other at graduation. Talked a bit after school, knew each other's families well. And then only recently, thankfully, I remember telling a few people, even when I was still in college, kind of like casually what happened, and just kind of came up with a conversation. I was never like telling people, proactively, but and they were like, what happened? And you're still friends with him? I'm like, yeah. And it was like this dissonance that I now see was something to kind of protect myself from really coming to the gravity of the situation. And then a few years later, I kind of realized like that's a really shitty thing. And then also I was able to really finally recognize there's been a lot of other, what I say now, like Judas energy, the backstabber of, in the Bible, whatever it may be. Like just someone who doesn't want what's best for you, but will act as if they do in your life. And there were times where I didn't have the eyes to see it. And then there were times like this where I did have the eyes to see it. I was just so afraid of what would happen if I changed my ways. And if I could do it all over again, I wish I would have moved out immediately. I wish I would have, if I was, meant to fail that class, I wish I would have failed that class and just retaken the next semester and gone from there. But there was just this part of me that was so fragile and vulnerable and lonely. I didn't want to. I feel like I couldn't. And for the only time in my life with this friend, I realized now, I didn't have eyes to see it, but I would, at that moment, I began to, for the first time in my life, ever feel bitter and treat people in a way that I don't like, which is with him, even though he's better at me in school, I know I'm much more intelligent than him. And around other people, I'd make him feel dumb. I'd make, and even though if he couldn't see that I was kind of making him feel dumb or like just, pretty much out, I want to say like a chess match, I almost like outplay him in certain ways, either some conscious, some unconscious to him. I like kind of wanted him to feel pain because of the pain he caused me. It's the only time in my life I ever felt that way towards anyone. And I wish I would have just not put up with that behavior and then just had other friend groups and whatever the cost would have been to break the lease for the apartment, like just do it. Get myself out of that situation. In hindsight is what it would have done. So there's been so many times as I share all these things where people have either unconscious to me, especially when I was younger, and then later on conscious to me, have done things that are not okay, are not acceptable. But I didn't really have the eyes to see it that way. I genuinely, I feel like I have a very pure heart and I assume the best in others. And I've learned the hard way many times that that's not really okay. That's not a path that I want to walk anymore. I want to be someone who embodies genuine unconditional love in all moments. And unconditional love, just like one of a really good father, oftentimes means kicking the son out of the house. It means walking away from a situation where people are not treating themselves or are not treating yourself in the way we know we're meant to treat other humans. Because conditional love is sticking with someone no matter what. Conditional love is what we've been taught of, like, you're meant to fight in relationships. You're meant to do this. These are all these bullshit things that are actually just two people with extreme dependencies and very unhealed attachment styles coming up against each other all the time. That's why it feels like this. And I'm done not owning my own worth. I feel like so much of my life was, I was telling Al today, it's like on the search for sentient beings that were actually pure and genuinely kind to each other. They didn't just do things just because they needed something from them. And I know there are so many people out there that are so kind and so nice and so pure. And thankfully, as I've entered my adult life, I've been able to attract them and build events for them. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And also to fully do that, it takes finally putting your foot down and realize I'm not going to accept anything other than genuine kindness and respect and friendship from others. I will not tolerate any level of abuse. And not only will we not receive that, but we will not give that to anyone because it's all a reflection of ourselves. All those people that would find ways to mess with me, I was a mirror for them of what they were or were not. And I didn't sign up for that. I may have done from a soul level, but not from this level. I wasn't a 12-year-old going around trying to piss everyone off and trigger the fuck out of everyone. I was just trying to live my life. And a lot of people were not nice to me. And very few were like genuinely good people, it felt. And I know it's very important for me to see this right now as things are really moving faster and building a lot of momentum, and we're gaining a lot larger audience and more people are wanting my time and energy more than ever. Making sure I understand and see this from the past so that I can embody the version of myself necessarily in the present and the future. From a place of unconditional love, from a place of genuinely understanding how powerful my energy is, how big my light is, that so many people have just wanted a piece of my entire life, and honoring that fully and not accepting anything less from myself or from others. It's just so clear. But the past few days have brought me a lot of sadness. Yeah. Like, is it really that freaking hard to treat each other right? Like, is it really that hard to just be kind to everyone? I mean, I feel like we've just, as a human species, have been suffering for way too freaking long. And we don't know it, but we are the cause of our own suffering. We sign up for so much of this abuse in ways that we can't even fully see. We're unconscious of it. And there's some ways that I definitely signed up for it, some of the ways I did not. But I allowed it. Which means I'm signing up for it to happen again. Because if I don't change the behavior, I'll keep attracting what that past behavior brought to me. And I see it again. It's like people, they're trying to test me. They're trying to make me lash out. They're trying to make me act a certain way. They try to provoke me all the time. I mean, even the events we have now, people come up to me like and tell me that they hate me or they have hated me. But all these other things, like, this is, it's reached such an extreme to where it literally feels like I'm on a reality TV show. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm on the Truman Show. Like, this society was created in a certain way to like trigger me in certain places, and they try to get something out of me. And there's so many in tune just to see what happens. And it's just happened again to where people are just pushing the buttons. And it pisses them off even more when I don't know how I do this, part of my DNA, I guess, but like from a very grounded way, from a not pissed, this is the most pissed off I've been in a minute, but like, and I don't know if that's even pissed off, but like, I just have a conversation, it's a very grounded, but also direct way to do what needs to be done. But that's not good enough for people, because how people interpret love, interpret connection, interpret friendships, interpret relationships, and thankfully Elle understands this, or else that would not work. But nearly the far majority of other people I come in contact with, it's like they want a fight. They want chaos, because that is how they interpret love. That's how they saw love growing up. That's how they think people care about them. And the movies aren't helping. If you watch The Notebook, they're fighting all the freaking time. And the end is like, we're going to fight and we're going to love each other through. That's all fucking bullshit. We don't have to be living this way. And people just push my buttons, trying to get something out of me. And then when I finally remove myself from the situation, I get even more of a visceral reaction from them. When I remove myself from the suffering, anyone who oftentimes unconsciously wants to continue suffering, that's when the fangs come out. And I've just felt that a lot recently, whether through the dreams or through connections that are beginning to fade away in my life, through former business partners, employees, friends, family members to some extent. Like, it's been difficult. There is such a bright side to my life, and there always has been. Like, I'm so grateful and so thankful for so much. And also what comes with that is people not always wanting what's best for you. It's like, the age old saying, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like they love to build you up and they love to tear you down. It's like we see it all the time with a celebrity or an athlete, whatever it is. Like they they become really famous and they're like the underdog. People love them, but then the moment they do anything out of line, out of character, people pounce on them and say the meanest things and try to tear them down. And for a lot of people, it doesn't take them doing anything. It doesn't take the person to do anything to make them try to find a reason to tear them down. So I've just been really reflecting a lot of my childhood and a lot of those experiences. I've only highlighted a few, but there's many, many like every single one of the stories that I had. And I feel like the reason why I feel called to share this with the world is there are other people like this who shine a very bright light, who are the spark, and they know it in their family and their friends, and they just know there's something special about themselves. And the saddest thing I see is that people dim their light because no one else around them has light. And so they bring themselves down to their level and accept abuse, accept chaos, accept behavior from others that don't serve them. And the funny thing is, like, the moment I began to really see this and cut the cords with those people, that is when it created a room for me to not only see the other things that are misaligned, but also for the right people to come in. Like, there is no scarcity of even like really bright humans out there, even really bright lights. There's plenty of them, but they're only ready to attract each other when they have gotten to the point where they no longer accept being dimmed. And when they no longer allow that into their reality, they will only accept love, kindness, respect from a genuine place by people that also aren't afraid to share the light. And they will love and cherish each other for their great creations, for just who they are as humans. And that's the world we're building. That's the world that will heal everything. That's the new paradigm. And so I'm making this pretty much for the younger version of myself, just to let myself know that even though there's a deep fear of being alone, a deep fear of being misunderstood, a deep fear of being judged, I wish I can tell my 12-year-old self, my 7-year-old self, my 22-year-old self, even my 25-year-old self to some extent, like I am today, my last day of being 25. You being who you are is a blessing to humanity. The purity, the light is exactly what we need. But you do not have to hang around people that don't serve you. You do not have to tolerate any level of abuse, any level of harm, because it's just people trying to justify to themselves why they aren't as bright as you. But that is their game to play. You're not there to teach them. You're not there to save them. You're not there to do anything. You're there to live your life. And the moment you make the decision, to move on, to move forward, to rise, all of your wants and needs be taken care of to a level you can't even fathom. The level of alignment you'll feel with the newer friends that come, with what you feel called to do with your life in terms of business, in terms of career, in terms of romantic relationships. It'll all be easier. But you just have to have the courage to make that choice, make that decision. So I say all that with an immense amount of gratitude. The younger version of myself, who went through a lot that was never really spoken. A lot of it wasn't even conscious of. And I'm really, really proud of him. And all that being said, everything happened perfectly. The future, since those points, has been very bright. But it's only bright when you allow yourself to shine your light. So always do what feels right. Always do what you know is right. Because the internal compass is your greatest gift. Okay. That's it for me today. For those of you that watched, thank you so much. I love you all so much. Time to love ourselves. Peace.